Sorry, mister.
Hey, what's the big idea?
I just wanted to live with those guys, but they kicked me out.
Why'd you want to live with them? You're not a bird.
I'm not?
Nah.
But I can fly. Maybe I'm a bug.
You're a fox, and foxes don't fly.
I do.
Hey, you got two tails.
Doesn't everyone? Can I live with you?
Well, don't you have a family?
Nope. I've been lost for a long time, and I need somebody to live with.
Well, I can't slow down for stuff like that. Got it, juice kid.
You want to see me cry?
Whoa, yeah! Okay, you can tag along for a while, and I'll think about it.
Hooray! You can be my big brother!
What's your name, Squirt?
Promise not to tell anyone? It's Miles.
Miles?
Yeah, I hate it.
Okay, I'll call you something else. I'll call you Tails.
Yo guys, what's going on? This is Jason, and we're going to be talking about another Sonic the Hedgehog character. Today is Tails Miles Prower. Now, if you don't know, Tails is just a nickname. His real name is Miles Prower. Now, if you guys don't know, Tails is the least character I like when it comes to the Sonic the Hedgehog series, when it comes to character-wise. I never cared for the character, and that's just due to the fact that he's always kind of been a fifth wheel. You know, I know he's really smart and he's able to do a whole bunch of cool stuff with gadgets, but the guy seems to get in the way a lot, and he seems to cower a lot. Now, looking back at the older Tails, the Tails I grew up with, I've kind of had a change of heart, sort of. Not to a point where I love the character, but I think I can appreciate the character now, because in the older series, Tails was a bit of a fighter, and in fact he was actually a little more helpful than what Sega puts him out to be now. Now, when it comes to the origin of Tails, or his history and background, I didn't realize how dark and depressing his backstory was. Now, I remember reading Tails' history through the Sonic the Hedgehog main series comics. I didn't know that Tails had his own mini-series comics like Knuckles did, and it could be the fact that this went under the radar because I didn't know that there was a comic book series based on Tails, but I just found out recently by doing some research. Thanks to a friend back at New York. He actually sent me a few free issues digitally, so I can kind of catch up with the character. And man, I did not realize that Tails' backstory is actually a lot more sad and depressing as Sega put out to be the original Sonic series. Now, with Tails, he starts off as kind of a fox who's kind of an outcast because he's born with two tails. His family, has disowned him. Actually, that does happen. That's pretty depressing, I gotta say. And the fact that everyone makes fun of him. Now, keep in mind, everyone thinks that the relationship when Sonic the Hedgehog and Tails first met was all smooth. It was actually a rocky road at first because Sonic the Hedgehog didn't want to bring Tails along because, he felt that he was in the way. But over time, Tails showed his skills and ingenuity, and also his gadgets, and the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog says, you know what, hey, I'll let you tag along, you seem really cool. And Tails wanted to be cool just like Sonic the Hedgehog. That's the reason why Tails follows Sonic quite a bit. Now keep this in mind too, they have retconned Tails' story at least I think 3 times, depending if we're talking about a TV show or the comic book series. Like I said, originally his family disowned him. Now there's another retcon story of Archie Comics where Tails' parents go to prison because apparently they were accused of treachery, even though they were framed by one of Scourge's, I guess, spies. Now that's kind of shitty if you think about it, and that's kind of depressing. That's kind of where Tails and Sonic almost become enemies than friends. Now, when they're talking about Tails' background story in the TV show, if we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog Sat AM, or Sonic the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, or even Sonic X. I don't know about Sonic Boom, but I know the 3 shows I mentioned, the first 3. Tails' backgrounds, I guess story is still the same, so that's pretty cool. So, you know, there's a few flashbacks of Tails remembering how he met Sonic. Now, each encounter was different, but the execution was the same. And I think that's kind of cool when you think about it. They haven't really messed up or retcon too many times of Tails' backstory. The only thing they retcon is his parents. But other than how Tails was handled with Sonic's meeting, it's somewhat the same. It's just handled in a different way, but the execution remains the same. Now, when it comes to abilities, Tails is a pilot. He knows how to fly with his tails, 2 tails, should I say. He's a swimmer, and he's also a pyromaniac, and also a pretty cool gadget specialist. Tails is really good at tinkering and just, you know, playing with mechanics, and he's also to create some cool stuff that kind of helps the freedom fighters in a way. Now, when it comes to Tails' relationship and love life, Tails has only had 2 in the series. And we call it Sonic X series. He actually falls in love with a creature named Cosmo, and she dies. And then when it comes to the comic series, Tails actually ends up with Fiona. Actually, he ends up falling in love with Fiona. That actually ends up turning out bad, where Fiona uses Sonic and Tails to get them to become enemies, and that's where the whole fighting begins, with Tails and Sonic not being friends no more. Now, when it comes down to the far future, the 4 years later, Tails ends up with a character named Maya. Now, if you don't know who Maya is like a rock star singer for Mobius, and yeah, Tails grows up and kind of becomes his own character. Now, other than that, that is all I can say about Tails the Fox. He's, you know, that's all that's really said about him. He's an alright character. You know, I don't love the character, but I think I can start liking the character a little bit, mainly due with the newfound knowledge I know now. And other than that, I hope you guys like this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll hear from you next time.